What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Game Day with Trey. Of course, this is your host, Trey, and today we're going to talk about this NFL Sunday afternoon matchup between the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants. This game is set to kick off at 1 p.m. East Coast time from Huntington Bank Field, all right, out there in Cleveland. The line right now is currently Cleveland minus 6.5. Over under is 42.5. The line has since moved down from 42.5 all the way down to 38.5 as far as the over-under is concerned. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at this matchup real quick. All right, so the Giants had a pretty rough game in their opener versus the Minnesota Vikings. All right, New York took a 14-3 deficit into the second half, and it didn't get any better from there. In a 28-6 blowout loss, Daniel Jones had 186 yards with 2 interceptions, while Devin Singletary led the team in rushing with 37 yards off of 10 carries. Now, in Game 2 versus the Washington Commanders, the Giants gave up points in every quarter on the way to a funky 21-18 loss. All right, Jones threw 2 touchdowns among his 178 yards this time, and Singletary was the rushing leader once again with 95 yards and a score off of 16 carries. And when you're talking about Cleveland, over on the Browns side, they had a tough matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys in their season opener. Cleveland took a 20-3 deficit into the break and eventually lost 33-17. Deshaun Watson posted 169 yards and a touchdown and 2 picks. Jerome Ford rushed 12 times for 44 yards and a score. Matched up against the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, the Browns held a 13-3 lead at halftime, and Cleveland was able to hang on for the win 18-13 in the end. Watson had 186 yards on 22 of 34 passing, and tops in receiving was Jerry Jeudy with 73 yards on 5 grabs. Now, when you're talking about these two teams, and this portion of the season, you always got to start off with the injuries. All right, and questionable coming in this game for the New York Giants is Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's managing a shoulder injury. It remains if he'll be out there to dress for the Sunday game versus the Browns, even though I do expect to see him out there. Another notable injury is John Michael Schmitz Jr., the center that they drafted. He's questionable. He sat out the previous 2 contests with an ankle injury, and it is unknown if he will play against the Browns on Sunday, and that would be a major hit for the New York Giants if that boy don't come out there and finally play his first game. Also take into account Evan Neal, the tackle they drafted a couple years ago or last year, missed the previous game due to an ankle injury, and he is undetermined if he will play against the Browns on Sunday, guys. Then when you look over to Cleveland, Cleveland's got some notables on the injury report as well. Zadarius Smith still on the injury report. He's questionable with that back. He's dealing with the back injury, unclear if he'll play against the Giants, but I'm pretty sure he'll be out there. Denzel Ward's questionable, hampered by the shoulder injury, and is yet to be established if he'll be out there on Sunday in the lineup for the Giants, but I also expect him to be out there. Pierre Strong Jr., he's questionable. He's battling a hamstring injury and has yet to be established if he will dress on Sunday's game. Then you also got Myles Garrett. He's dealing with that foot injury. He's questionable as well. He's hobbled by it, and they're not sure whether or not he's going to play on Sunday. I'm pretty sure he will. David Njoku, he's still questionable with the ankle. He's dealing with that ankle injury, and it's undetermined if he'll be ready to suit up on Sunday. Jedrick Willis Jr., the tackle, he's questionable. He's missed 2 previous games due to a knee injury, and it's unknown if he'll be active. Then look at the other tackle they got, Jack Conklin. He's questionable and is managing a knee injury. It is unclear if he'll be active for this game as well. So they have a lot going on, especially over there in Cleveland, man. Like, their offensive line is decimated, but so is the Giants, which would explain a lot of what's going on outside of the poor quarterback play that they each have received. So like I spoke about earlier, when you're talking about how Cleveland matched up with Jacksonville last week, okay, Cleveland came out and was 2 of 14 on 3rd downs, man. And they allowed Jacksonville to come out there and be 3 of 9 on 3rd downs. That's pivotal. That's something you want to pay attention to. Even though Cleveland was on the road in that game, they still were unable to convert third downs. And on red zone, yeah, they were 1 for 1 the only time they got there, and Jacksonville was 1 for 4. So they did a good job on that, but they were getting penalized a lot. They had 13 penalties for 100 yards, man. So Cleveland, if they want to have a chance to do what I think they should be able to do in this game, they got to clean that type of stuff up. Then when you're looking at the Giants, okay, so we already went over the numbers. Malik Neighbors had 10 receptions for 127 yards and a touchdown. Kind of a coming out party, but yet still, they still lost. So we know Malik Neighbors is a number 1 wide receiver. That's set in stone, okay? The young man is very talented. But with Daniel Jones at quarterback, how successful can they be, right? Like, on third down, they were 4 for 8, so that's pretty good. And Washington only went 7 for 14, which was also pretty good. Both of them were 50%. But at the end of the day, man, you got to convert everything you can when it comes to third downs, when it comes to fourth downs, when it comes to attempts in the red zone. Like, okay, the Giants went 3 for 3 in the red zone, but still did not win the game. Just think about that for a second. Like, they only scored 18 points, guys. They didn't have a kicker. They went into this game without a kicker, guys. Make that make sense. I mean, I understand Graham Gano is injured, and as far as the specifics on Graham Gano, so Graham Gano's injury is a hamstring injury, and he's on IR. So how do you go into the game without a kicker when you know you need a kicker? It would have been 21-21 if they had a kicker. They had to go for 2 every time. Like, you're not going to win like that. That is horrible coaching by Brian Daboll, and it's going to come back to bite him. And especially when you're going against a defense like they're going against right now, in the Cleveland Browns, in the way the Cleveland Browns play at home. All right, so right now, when you're looking at these two teams and you're looking at how they match up on the field, the Giants are averaging 12 points a game, so that puts them at the 31st worst offense in the NFL, whereas Cleveland's giving up 23 points a game. That puts them at the 22nd worst defense in the NFL. Third down conversions on the season. Now, the Giants are converting 42.31% of their third downs on the season, so that puts them at number 9 in the NFL, whereas Cleveland is only allowing 30.43% of third downs to be converted. So that puts them at 10th best defense on third down in the NFL. Once again, Giants are 50% in the red zone when they make it down there. That puts them the 10th best team in the red zone in the NFL, despite all these injuries and all the insanity going on. But then when you look at Cleveland Browns, they're only allowing teams to score 40% of the time touchdowns when they get to the red zone. So that puts them at the 15th worst, or middle of the pack, whatever you want to call them, all right, defense in the red zone in the NFL. Now let's look at the inverse. We look at the inverse. Cleveland Browns are only scoring 17.5 points per game. That puts them in the 22nd best offense in the NFL, versus the Giants giving up 24.5 points per game to opponents, man. And that's the 25th worst defense in the NFL. Then third down conversions, Cleveland is not converting. They are the 31st worst offense in converting third downs in the NFL at 13.79%, guys. That's not a recipe for success. And then when you look at the Giants, they're only allowing teams to convert 41.67% of the time, which puts them at the 23rd. So Cleveland will definitely, or should, see an uptick in this game in being able to actually convert on third downs. Cleveland's 100% in the red zone when they make it, but the Giants' defense is stingy. Giants' defense only allows teams to score touchdowns 25% of the time when they reach the red zone. So this is definitely going to be that's definitely going to be something to pay attention to. Okay, and when you look at how these two teams are playing, as far as what they're doing in their stat splits, right? What they're doing in their situational game. So situationally, the Giants are 0-2 straight up, and Cleveland's 1-1. All right. As a home team, Cleveland's 0-1, and as an away team, of course, we know the Giants are 0-1. All right. As a home favorite, though, Cleveland's 0-1. And as a away underdog, of course, the Giants are 0-1 as well. Now, when you look against the spread, though, against the spread, the Giants are 0-2, and Cleveland is still 1-1. As a home team, though, Cleveland's still 0-1, and as a away team, the Giants are still 0-1. As an underdog, the Giants are 0-2. They have not covered yet this season in that role. And as a favorite, Cleveland, they ain't covered neither. All right, now if you look over-under, both of the Giants games have gone under. I mean, just thinking about it, think about that horrible amount of points they're putting up. It's like 12 points. It's 31st worst in the NFL. That's not going to get it, y'all. That's just definitely not going to get it. And then when you look at the Cleveland Browns, they're 1 to the over and 1 to the under. The one over game was a home game, all right, in Cleveland, and their one away game, of course, was that under that they had. As a home favorite, though, the game did go over for them. All right, even though as a home favorite they did lose the game. All right, so I believe that was the Giants game they played, guys. But let's take a look at that real quick. So in the last 10 times that the Giants, not the Giants, but the Cowboys game. So let's take a look at the last 10 times the Giants have been on the field. Last 10 times the Giants have been on the field, they're 4-6 straight up, 6-4 against the spread, and 5-5 to the over and under. When you're looking at them on the road in their last 5 games, they're 1-5 on the road, and that's going back to last season. And then when you look against the spread on the road, they're actually 2-3, so they're just a little bit better on the road when you're talking about against the spread. Now, as far as over/under is concerned on the road, they are 3-2. So that's 3 to the over, 2 to the under. And the last 5 games that they have played. And they got some big matchups coming up. I mean, they got Dallas coming up next, then Seattle, then Cincinnati. So it could be a tough stretch they have coming up right now. And hopefully not a look ahead, because you can't afford to look ahead when you're as sorry as the Giants are. Now let's look at Cleveland. Cleveland's 5-5 straight up, 5-5 against the spread, and 8 to the over, 2 to the under in their last 10 games, guys. Like, where's the defense at with this team? Where has it been at? Because it was a very stout defense at one point last season, and it just fell off a cliff at the end of the season last year. Hence why it was 8-2 to the over in the last 10 games they played. Now at home, in their last 4 games that they played at home, they are 3-1 at home. Only loss was to Dallas, and that was earlier this season. Now, when you look against the spread, though, against the spread at home, they are also 3-1 going back to last season. But that goes back to the Joe Flacco time. We're not talking about the Deshaun Watson time. And as far as who they're playing next, they play Vegas, Washington, and Philly. So this right here should be a warm-up game to get ready for Vegas, and then they got another little warm-up game before they get ready for Philly. So it's not a look-ahead spot right here, guys. Now, head-to-head, these two teams last met back in 2020, and they've only played 4 times since 2008. It's 2-2 even, straight up, 2-2 against the spread even, and 2 to the over, 2 to the under in the 4 games. What it looks like to me, the away team usually will come off with the win in the last 2 meetings that they had. So that's from 2016 and 2020. Prior to that, it was the home team that would win. So it's really not a lot to see there. And against the spread, it's the same type function, guys. Like, it's not a lot to see there either. Now, as far as over/under is concerned, it did go under the last 2 times they played. And that's important because we already know these offenses are struggling right now. So that leaves us a good opportunity for that under to kind of come through, especially when you look at the stat splits right now. Now, they've only played 2 games, but when you're playing when they played the 2 games that they have played each, all right, you're looking at on the road, the Giants average 3 points a game, okay? And at home, Cleveland averages 16 points a game, guys. So, I mean, that's a deadbolt under, man, if I had ever seen one. That's why the line keeps going down, all right? That's why things look the way they look. So let's take a look at some of the trends, though, for these teams, and then we'll get into the final portion of this. All right, so The New York Giants have hit the second quarter money line in 8 of their last 17 games. The Cleveland Browns have hit the first quarter total in 13 of their last 22 games. The New York Giants have hit the second half money line in 5 of their last 10 games, whereas Cleveland Browns have hit the first half game total over in 15 of their last 22 games. Now, the New York Giants have scored last in 6 of their last 8 games, and the Cleveland Browns have hit the second quarter money line in 11 of their last 19 games, guys. Then also another thing you want to pay attention to is the New York Giants have hit the fourth quarter total under in 11 of their last 17 games, and the Cleveland Browns have hit the game total over in 14 of their last 22 games. All right, so wrap this thing up basically, guys, and let you know what's going to go down as far as total points concerned. Each of the Giants' last 8 games have against AFC North opponents have gone under the total point line, and each of the Browns' last 4 games as favorites has gone over the total point line. Take that as you will, but I would trust more the first than trust the second, right? As far as player props are concerned, there's nothing I would look at for Cleveland. It's just it's too inconsistent at quarterback, and I really don't see anything as a player prop for the Giants either, only because of how things have played out at this point, so I'll stick with Cleveland, probably not touching it, but I'll definitely stick with Cleveland if I was going to play this game. The Browns gutted out a road win over Jacksonville this past weekend, and it wasn't exactly pretty. So Cleveland committed 13 penalties, like I told y'all, for 100 yards on the way to an ugly win. All right, and they were 2 of 14 on third downs. On defense, Cleveland gave up 323 yards and couldn't muster any takeaways. And as for New York, they had a few bright spots in an otherwise ugly road loss to the Washington Commanders. The Giants posted just 22 minutes and 28 seconds in time of possession, resulting in 304 total yards and 18 first downs. Cleveland hasn't scored more than 18 points in either game so far, but the defense should be able to hold the Giants in check, especially with the injuries that the Giants are faced with on the offensive line, man. So I guess I would have to lean Cleveland minus the 6.5, because I have no faith in the Giants scoring points, and without a kicker, it just makes it even worse. So hopefully they'll go out and get them one by the time they get here for this game. But it's definitely an under. I'm going with the under. The line's moving under, and that's just proof in the pudding of what needs to be played in this game. But y'all let me know in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and I'm going to holler at y'all, man. See you at the window. Peace.